Hey summoners, welcome to a video on monster summon rates. And to showcase that, we are using this website that's got awesome Summoners War data called swarform.com. And I do want to do a quick shout out to this awesome human being right here, Pork Smash. Pork Smash is extremely involved in the Reddit community, as well as maybe many of you know the Summoners War community, especially for those that have been to swarform.com before. So today what I want to do is roughly talk through the summon rates for your monsters that you have, and like some of my previous videos, talk to you about why you can't really get upset about getting those nat 5s all the time. I just get so salty every time I see them summoned in the chat, but the reality is, as far as we know, that it is very low, and today we're here to prove that out with actual data. So first off, what you're going to want to do, and on top of summons, there's always multi layers of different data that you can get at, and Pork Smash has done a great job laying that out for us right here. Now what we're going to do obviously is take a look at the summons. This is a new style format for me, so if the screen isn't really showing well on my screen capture, I am going to talk over just so that you can see. Here's the different summonings that we have, anywhere from legendary pieces, legendary scrolls, down to our unknown summoning scrolls. Primarily where I'm going to start off with is everyone's favorite, just your general mystical summons. So this set of data, we have 16.6k logs. Part of the reason why I'm using this site is because it does a very good job laying stuff out for everyone. So essentially, when you go to use your mystical scrolls and do your summons, the odds of you getting a 3-star are roughly 91.5%. 4-star is 8%, and then that 5-star is 0.5%. So if you actually watched my latest summoning session, which was my 1-year anniversary, where I do go and summon over 100 monsters, it is fairly close to this. I ended up getting 1 5-star, and my theory always been around the 4 stars is kind of like 1 in 10 was always my benchmark, but obviously you can see it's a little worse than that, but it's probably pretty close. The other thing that is pretty neat is the summoning by element is also broken out here. So you can actually expect to see wind elements summoned the least amount of the time. Now, the question is, why is this information important? Well, essentially, it debuffs the kind of general knowledge that everyone likes to have and gives us hard facts behind that and evidence that is very important in particular for gameplay. Now, one of the reasons why I like to do this and use hard facts is because it's like, hey, I'm going to walk in a casino and expect to get a jackpot. No, you're not. And when it comes to everyone's favorite random number generation, they believe that you have an equal chance or it's randomly generated every time, but the fact is it's not. So one of the things that I do want to cover here quickly is it's actually a pseudo-random number generator, or a determined random number generator. And the reason why I like to talk about that is because essentially there is a parameter. In a typical random number generator, that's not the case. It's kind of indefinite. So, you is 1 to infinity, you're going to summon everything at an equal chance, but the reality is we know this isn't the case just based here off some of this evidence as well as all these things, because there is a parameter that is behind all the data. Now, when we try and assess that data, which Pork Smash has done a wonderful job of trying to aggregate everyone's data, is there's another technique called the Monte Carlo method. So what this is essentially you're trying to utilize it in one of 3 ways. It's optimization, numerical integration, or probability distribution. So in this case, what we're doing is we're taking that random number generator, which is our determined fact set, and calculating that probability of distribution. So using, again, this 16.6k logs, which is actual quantitative analysis, we can see that, again, our odds are roughly, you know, 1 to 10, a little less than that, 92% on 3-star. So this stuff is awesome because it helps break those general knowledge, which is really qualitative data. It's a feel, and this really helps the community. So now that we've gone through the mystical scrolls and have validated that, it's roughly a 0.5% for a 5-star, and personally, from my qualitative analysis, and you could go back and watch all my videos, calculate the data, and find out that it probably roughly aligns with this. I have only summoned 2 Nat 5s in the course of a year, but most likely, again, it's very, very close to that data. So I would make the assumption that within my next probably 100 summons, I should hopefully be able to get another Nat 5, keeping within that range. Now, the next thing I want to take a look at that's kind of fun that everyone always likes too are these legendary scrolls. One of the things here is the data is not necessarily what I consider significant, but again, in legendary scroll terms, we know it's a lot of work to get there, and you could consider it good information. Now, here's some really, really interesting stuff. Now, when we looked at the element data of the mystical scrolls, and now we look at the element data of legendary scrolls, it's actually flipped, which is really, really interesting because now you can summon wind more likely in a legendary scroll, which wasn't the case with your mystical scroll. Now, the other fun piece is you have a 95%, obviously your parameters, your 4 and 5-star, you have a 95% chance of getting a 4-star monster, but you have a 5% chance of getting a 5-star. So that's really good. So obviously there's more work that goes into getting a legendary, and your odds of getting a legendary are, 10 times better now? That's pretty good. So obviously there's some scale behind their algorithm behind the fact. Now the other thing here again, as we look at the awakening piece, it's roughly 1.5%. So again, not a lot of us care about that, but additional fun data to have. And to kind of show you guys again a little bit better, I'm going to scroll up here so that you can see the charts. So again, this data is really, really laid out nicely, and there's a lot of other additional facts and drill downs that you can use on the site. The next one that I do want to show you too to kind of contrast is your mystical summon with the crystals, because it's either you're going to go buy the premium pack for 11 and it's costs you 750 crystals, or you're going to potentially do a crystal summon. Now, when I looked at this, I found this pretty interesting as well, because the fact is it is very, very similar to some degree as your regular mystical summons, but with one caveat. Again, the stats are a little bit skewed. Your 5-star chance is actually much worse. So a thing to keep in mind, now again, this could be due to the parameter set of 680 logs, but the awakening is still roughly 2%. And previously, looking at the data ahead of time, that's kind of something that I found to hold constant across almost everything. Again, we see fire the most, wind the least, and water's kind of in the middle. So really, we can extrapolate some of this data into other potential theories. One of those theories would be the fact that there's probably more fire monsters in the game, just because of the fact that we can see that your mystical summon scrolls have a higher percentage of fire, and your fire monster summons here with the crystal pieces are higher as well. So in essence, your wind monsters are actually very, very rare. So those guys and gals that love your chase, sorry, you're going to be a little out of luck, because it's actually worse odds to some degree, to be honest, to get chase. So not only do you have to summon your 4, but the likelihood of a wind element monster is much worse. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer there. But anyway, again, very, very interesting. And then obviously you have the different kind of scrolls that are 100% of that type. Obviously you're not going to get a fire monster when you use a wind scroll. But The next thing that I do want to talk about, that's always fun, excuse me, are the light and dark scrolls. One of the reasons why I want to do this is because everyone loves these. Again, here we have the likelihood of summoning a 3-star, again around 92%. Your 4-star is 6.3, and then you have your 5-star, which is roughly 1%. So 1 in 100 summons, you should be getting a 5-star. Element's kind of interesting. So it's very split, it's very close. 6% skew towards dark. But again, log numbers could actually have an impact. Now, one of the things, again, that's very interesting is if we look at the data quantified by the fact that your 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star percentages hold very, very tight. And they're very close across kind of all those what I would consider summoning classes. You get very, very close to them being the same. And when you talk about numbers, there's always this prevailing theory kind of in the stock market, and why a moving average is always important, because a lot of times whether the stock is underpriced or overpriced relative to mean, the stock has a higher probability of reverting back to the mean. So in essence here, if you're summoning, and you might be hitting the gold and getting a 10% rate of summoning a 4-star, but the reality is maybe it's 8, you might qualitatively find later that you are not getting as many 4-star summons because it's probably reverting closer back to the mean. Now, the thing that we don't know is the behind the scenes algorithms again, where if it's kind of this dependable probability where after you summon a 4-star, does it reset, things like that. Is the odds, independent? Is it not independent? But most likely, I'm going to guess that's probably somewhat dependent on last calculations, just based off other things I've seen in the game. But again, that's not quantifiable evidence. That is a qualitative analysis that I have made, which you could extrapolate into a theory of sense. But I wouldn't consider that general knowledge. So those are kind of the fun things with this site and some data. The last thing that I do want to check, which I thought was really interesting too, was our exclusive summons. When we look at our exclusive summons, again, here we have a fairly good amount of logs. We have some interesting stuff. So if you watched my attempt in my Chasing Trophy Monsters episode to go after Orion, I highly suggested that when you look at your weekly rotation for your exclusive summons, make sure you're looking at your Nat 4 selection. And this proves to be true in this scenario again. The other thing that you do find really interesting is this piece again. So if we look at our elements, we actually have a equal weight. So this one's more evenly distributed across the elements for the exclusive summonings, which is awesome to see. Our awakened percent, again, is at that 2%, which we talked about. And again, we see that 4-star around 6, the 3-star around 93.5, and then our 5-star, around that 0.5%. So again, that 5-star summon across the board outside the legendary scroll is between kind of that 0.5, 1.5. So it's probably around that 1%-ish chance over a very, very larger period. This might be significantly good enough, but that 5% probably seems pretty general as well. Interestingly enough, we have that 4-star summon at a 6% chance. So something to keep in mind, roughly every, 10 summons in your exclusive summoning, you might get a 4-star. It's probably more like 1 in 20 there. But something to remember, and why, when you approach your exclusive summonings, that you should be more focused on the 4-stars. So again, I'm just going to go back to the home page here and kind of wrap up some of our conclusion around what we see. So first off, again, thank you very much to Swar Farm. I know, being in IT myself, this stuff's a lot of work. You got to think through a lot of things to do it, and obviously the technical challenges behind the scenes. So with that, again, I do want to say thank you to Pork Smash. Again, been in a lot of conversations with Pork before. Awesome human being. Thank you again for putting this all together. And to kind of wrap up some of the things that I wanted to point out, again, we took a look at the monster summon rates. So, roughly, just at a high level, again, we could see that the 5-star summons across the board were roughly 0.5% to 1%. When you get to that legendary summon, it's actually amplified by about 10 times. You get about 5% chance at your legendary scroll. We took a look at elemental data. We saw that fire across the board was most commonly summoned, wind was least, as well as the fact that when we looked at the exclusive summoning stones, it was actually evenly balanced. The next piece was the awakening piece. In the awakening part, we found across the board it was roughly a 2% chance that the monster would be summoned with awakening. So when we walk away from all that, I would like to hope that you as summoners are now more well informed about summoning. Some of the general knowledge has been removed potentially from the fact, or that general knowledge has been validated by quantifiable evidence. And sometimes we can see how qualitative analysis can also help us to make other decisions about our gameplay. So I very, very appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. I hope you learned some stuff about summoning. Please share with your friends, like, comment, and make sure to subscribe for other awesome videos. With that said, summoners, good luck summoning. May your summonings be blessed with nat 5s at a higher percentage than the 0.5 to 1%, and may everything be blessed around that. So until next time, summoners, Mythras out. You make sure you keep on summoning.